In today's session, I will be speaking to men. And today's session is about what every man needs to learn. Eric Hoffer has a quote, a famous quote, in which he said that the illiterate of the future would not be those who cannot read or write, but would be those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So the theme of today's session is about learning. What do you need to learn as a man? And my recommendation and my advice and my hope is that this learning process can commence as early as 4 or 5 years old. Certainly there are some specific items that I will refer to that will need to be delayed until the man is of a certain age so that he understands what he is learning. The age demographics that I tend to focus on are people between the age of 18 and 39. However, most of what I will be talking about today requires an early start. I said in one of the earlier sessions that there is a beautiful saying that all men are created equal, but some work harder during pre-seasons. And so the earlier you start with this learning process, the easier it will be when you become of age between 18 and 39. So let's begin. I'm going to group each of these items into, I would say, specific themes. The first is you need to learn how to fight. Now, let me break that down into 5 sub areas. Every man needs to learn how to use a firearm. Now, I remember growing up, the first time I heard the sound of a gun. It terrified me. It frightened me. The reason? It was the first time I had heard a gun. Irrespective of where you are in the world, there is something you should always keep to heart and keep close to your heart, and that is that freedom is never given to you. Freedom is something you must demand. And even if you are born in the West or you live in the West, there is so much evil out there, and you have to understand that one of the responsibilities you have as a man is protection, to protect those that you've been assigned to, or that have been assigned to you. Every man needs to learn how to use a firearm, a handgun, a shotgun, or an assault rifle, an automatic. In certain locations, you can go to fire ranges and you can practice precision and accuracy from a distance. You can practice how to load, unload. You can practice how to handle a firearm. Because irrespective of where you are in the world, evil has a way of finding its place amongst good people. You need to learn how to use a firearm, not for the purpose of using it, but so that should you need to use one, you are not ill prepared when the occasion arrives. Number 2, you need to learn how to use, in my opinion, any form of, whether that be a sword, or whether that be machetes, or whether that be knives, or whether that be weapons. You need to know how to use and improvise with whatever is available around you. I mentioned in one of the prior sessions, many years ago, most young men were drafted into the army. You had to represent your country. You had to fight for country. Therefore, you were taught how to use the sword, you were taught how to fight, you were taught how to use firearms, and therefore your first duty was to country. We have lost a lot of that. And unfortunately, today, if someone was to use a firearm, people are terrified, especially men. Number 3 is you need to learn how to fight with your hands. Boxing, martial arts, karate, jiu-jitsu, tai chi, but you need to know how to use your hands. Number 4, you need to know how to use your legs. Every man needs to learn how to use his legs. For kicks, for stopping an attack, for protection, for defense, you need to learn how to use your legs. Now let me use a good example. I'm 6'2", and that means I'm taller than the average person in the West. In the UK, the average male or the average man is about 5'10", 5'11", and that means I'm much taller than the average. That means that in a fight, I should not be allowing, if it was a stand-up fight on our feet, I should not be allowing my opponent to come close to me because my legs are much longer than my arms. If I use my hands, I'm at a disadvantage. In other words, I transfer my advantage to a potential disadvantage. I can keep my assailant, I can keep my opponent at a distance, at a range, by just using my legs. Beautiful kicks. As a matter of fact, you can stop an opponent because most people expect you to use your hands. Very few people expect you to use your legs. And if you can use your legs, you can be very, very lethal as a fighter. So you need to learn how to use firearms. You need to learn how to use knives or swords. You need to learn how to fight with your hand, standing up. You need to learn how to fight standing up with your legs. Number 5, you need to learn how to fight on the ground, how to grapple, whether that be judo, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. You are not always going to have the luxury of standing and fighting. You may not also have the luxury of space. And therefore, you need to be adequately prepared to go into battle, irrespective of location, environment, and place. You need to be able to defend yourself on the ground. You need to be able to defend yourself above ground. 5 items, and I group all of those items into the category of fight. Very important. Now, I know that in the West, especially in the West, and in the modernized West, the idea that I should be encouraging you and teaching you how to fight, or encouraging you to use firearms, might sound preposterous. I do not believe in the vision of the anointed. I look at life, I'm one of the few people that looks at life through the tragic lens. I do not look at life through the therapeutic lens. I look at life through reality. And reality says that over 10,000 years of human existence, we've had more war than we have had peace. And whenever we lean too far towards peace, we suffer. And that, in fact, the best defense against your enemies is to prepare for war and be prepared for war. If you want peace, then prepare for war. And so what I am suggesting and what I am recommending is not for you to go about looking for fights. As a matter of fact, you should be meek. Meekness is a virtue. There is a saying that the meek shall inherit the earth. And it simply means, translated, that those who have their swords but can keep their sword sheath will inherit the earth. The meaning of that is that those who have power but have learned how to control their power, how to harness their power, are the ones who would inherit the earth. Another translation applies to Greek. In Greek, where it talks about a horse that has been trained for war, but has been disciplined and taught how to be subdued by the rider and to obey the rider and to be used by the rider to achieve a specific vision. So you need to be lethal as a specimen for warfare. Think about yourselves like you would the Navy SEALs. People who are gentle, people who are loving and who are kind. But once it's time for battle, they're lethal, especially very lethal against their enemies. If you are going to be a protector of the family, you need to be lethal. Now let me give you an example so you can understand how this applies in my case. I would say that possibly, maybe when I worked in the city, probably about 99.5% of my friends and people I worked with around the business community had no idea, and this is over several decades, had no idea that I was a third level black belt, that I was a third dan in karate. No idea. Not even a clue. Why? It was not relevant. So there were times I went back to work on the Monday, and the Saturday before the Monday, I had been representing England in an international competition, sometimes with more than 20 countries. And sometimes I would come back, I would either be competing in a national competition, a European competition, or a world championship competition. Sometimes I would return either from training, from competing with a black eye. And I would go to work on a Monday, and I guess people just perhaps thought I was eccentric. They may have thought maybe he got into a brawl in the pub, but I said nothing. There was no need for that. The skill I was learning was for a specific purpose. I prayed the time never came where I had to exercise and use the skills, but I stayed prepared. And I was training, you have to understand this, at the time, I was working on average maybe 14 hours every day, but I was training 4 times every week in martial arts. And during competitions, a month before the competitions, I would train sometimes 5-6 times a week. The confidence that I gained from knowing how to fight is immeasurable. I said once to someone that you do not know the feeling of knowing how, having the confidence to walk down any street without fear. Not arrogance, but confidence. The confidence was that I had been trained to take a punch, and I had taken a number of them, and all things remaining equal, ceteris paribus, I knew I would never start the fight, but I knew that when the fight was presented to me and I weighed that there was a reward for me in that battle, or when I knew I was fighting for my life, for honor, for family, and to protect those I loved, I had the confidence that I could execute. I learned how to use firearms. I learned how to use weapons. I learned how to fight. The best gift a father and a mother can give their kids, from the age of about 5, 6, 7, get them enrolled in martial arts. As a matter of fact, the reason I went into martial arts was because I found at a young age I was always around trouble. Whenever there was something, as a matter of fact, I remember someone said to me once, a young girl said to me, "You seem to be, I've seen you a few times, and whenever there is something terrible happening, either some altercation or a fight, you seem to be there." Now, she didn't accuse me of participating, but she simply said, "But you seem to be there, very calm, but in the midst of everything happening. You were not the one instigating the fight, but you were present." And she said, "You have an attraction to violence and trouble." But one of the reasons I joined martial arts was because I said to myself, she made an interesting observation. This is when I was very young. I need to learn how to fight. I joined a martial arts karate school with the intention that I would learn the skills so that I could cause more harm on people that I came across whenever I found myself in an altercation. In other words, I took the aggression I had as a young man, and I was trying to harness and become a lethal fighting machine. Guess what? I achieved the opposite. It tamed me. It taught me discipline. It taught me self-respect. It taught me respect for others. It taught me how to refrain from violence. It taught me how to be of good conduct. And I found that I came out a better student than I came in. And I have remained a student ever since then. It's remarkable what martial arts teaches you, boxing or any form of martial arts. So you need, if you have a child, get them enrolled very early in martial arts and keep them there. As much as you can, get them involved in international and national competitions. Let them represent their countries. Represent England, represent France, represent the United States, represent Somalia, represent South Africa. Doesn't matter what country you're from, represent your country. Because when you fight for country, there's a different feeling of honor and pride and esteem. And in many ways, you become a role model. You see yourself as a role model. The reason I want you to join competitions is because you get to fight the best. And iron sharpens iron. So I've given you 5 items under the category of fight. And I think this is perhaps the most important, because the first rule of a man is to protect. In the animal kingdom, we see this very clearly. You protect your cubs. You protect your offsprings. Now let's move away from the theme of fighting. So we've talked about 5. Let's move to number 6. You need to learn how to speak. Public speaking. Start as early as you can. Join a debate club. One of the most important lessons I ever learned was the importance of being in a debate club. I know things are different today, and how we interact and engage in debates are different. But if things were done the way they used to conduct affairs, what you found is if you were a member of a debate club, your debate coach gave you a topic to study. On the day of the debate, you were called forward. You were not informed prior to the debate whether you would be debating for or debating against the topic. And therefore, you had to prepare. You had to understand the topic very well. And on the day, you were given a specific position to take. Now, what that meant was that you were being taught and trained on how to be objective. As a matter of fact, in any conversation you're having with someone else, if you do not understand that topic and their position as well as they do, you shouldn't be debating with them. The idea is that you should be able to understand what the other person and where they're coming from and be able to articulate their position just as well before you can rebut their position. But that is, one is debate. Debate comes under the umbrella of public speaking or good communication. You need to learn how to speak to a small group, to a larger group. Because as part of your duty as a father, as a man, as a leader, you have to inspire, you have to inform, you have to enlighten, you have to motivate, you have to educate, and you have to discipline, sometimes just using your words, the people who look up to you. So you need to learn how to communicate, how to speak. I know my father. I hold on to the words of my father. At some point in your life, the universe will thrust greatness on you. You need to be prepared for that moment. If you were to look through history, one of the things you would find is some of the people that you hold in high esteem were very good speakers, orators. They were good with words. Martin Luther King, Abraham Lincoln, Nelson Mandela, President Barack Obama, and the list goes on. These were people who were beautiful with words. Winston Churchill was celebrated, and it was said that he had the rare ability to take the English language and send the English language into battle. He was good with words. Women like good leaders. Communities thrive on having good leaders. Nations thrive on having good leaders. Your company, your business will succeed, and there will be a correlation with your success and the progression you make in your career path. There'll be a correlation with your ability to communicate very well. One of the mistakes I made growing up, especially during business, was I'm naturally a numbers person. I'm taught and trained to think numbers. What I always lacked was the soft skills, the ability to communicate well, use words. I'm still having to work and learn how to communicate, something I do terribly well. But I only learned about the importance of communication too late. Before you go down the path of technically pigeonholing yourself, learn how to speak. Become the president of your association. Become the chairperson of your union. Volunteer to lead a certain group and get used to speaking. Join a church, join a charity, get used to speaking. Practice, practice, practice. Learn how to use your body language. Learn how to use different gestures. Change your pitch, reduce your pitch. Empathize. I wish, and I'm learning today, how to do that. People who can speak publicly always attract followers, or rather, followers choose leaders that can represent them both by voice and by vision. So, number 6 is, if you can, parents, start young. If you are already an adult, it's never too late to start. You need to learn how to speak. Now, number 7, and I'll move quickly. You need to learn how to dance. You need to learn how to dance. Perhaps I'm going to do a different separate session on the importance of dancing, especially for men. But let me suffice it to say that men who can dance, and let me qualify when I say dance, I'm not talking about hip hop, Afrobeat, house, jazz. I'm talking about the type of dance you do with a partner. If you are a man and you've ever been to a dance class, let me use, and there is some bias, obviously, because of what I practice: Cuban salsa, bachata, kizomba. What you find is you have to lead, and the woman has to follow the lead of a man in dancing. If you've ever spoken to a woman who knows how to dance and asked her to express the feeling of dancing with a man that knows how to dance and knows how to lead, let me be very specific, who knows how to lead, and dancing with a man who does not know how to dance and who does not know how to lead, it's like night and day. Usually when I speak to my female friends and my male friends, I tell them, if you know how to dance and if you know how to lead, it becomes easy to lead at your work, to lead in your relationships, and to lead in your family. When I started learning how to dance, I was terrible. I mean, absolutely terrible at dancing. I assumed that there was a style, a lead style for every single woman. It took a while for me to understand that there were times when the lady would say, I can't feel your lead. I need some more pressure. I need some more direction. So I had to learn. And there were other times when I found that my pressure, my lead, was too strong. The importance of dancing is, especially with the Latin dance, is you get the opportunity to dance with people of different sizes, from different walks of life, of different age groups, of different ethnicities. And what you start to learn is that we are all unique and we're all different. And usually when you start dancing, the music is playing, you need to be intuitive. You need your musicality to listen to the beat and read and listen to the woman, and then lead her along. As you dance with different partners, you learn that everyone is different. And suddenly you come to the realization of your leadership style when it comes to dancing. You become more intuitive. You become more sensitive. You become more patient. You become sometimes more assertive. You become more confident. Women like good leaders. Women like assertive, confident dancers. Women like playful dancers. So as part of your dancing, what I had to learn was how to play. How not to take myself too seriously. Because the beauty of Latin dance is you can walk into a bar and everyone is dancing. You ask a lady to dance, and at the end of the dance she walks away, you walk away. No strings attached. However, what you tend to find is by learning how to dance, as a matter of fact, in my case, learning how to dance improved my martial arts, because it meant that I understood how to move. I understood how to count. I understood how to listen to the music. But more importantly, I understood how to communicate with my partner. In martial arts, when you're competing, you have a partner. What I found, especially in martial arts, was when I was fighting someone who was unknown to me in a competition, in the first few minutes, first few seconds, you guys are trying to mirror. You're trying to read each other's reactions, feints, power, because you're unknown to each other. And what tends to happen is that you can subtly lead your opponent into following your rhythm. And once they get into that rhythm, you change the rhythm very quickly and you go on the offense, on the attack. And in that short space of time, sometimes seconds, you can score, you can win. In dancing, the same principle applies, but in a more gentle way. Men, like myself, who were raised by very strong fathers, we were taught certain things. Dancing was not one of the things I was taught. I never saw my father dance at home with my mother growing up. And so there were certain things that I never saw modeled to me. And to learn in that, it was strong, it was tough, but it was useful. Because you learned how to flirt. You learned how to communicate in a subtle, soft way. You learned how to have interests that other people could share. And most importantly, you learned how to play. Ladies love men who can play. Dancing is a form of play. So, mothers and fathers, if you have kids at a certain age, dancing is something that they would have to choose for themselves. And this applies to ages between 18 and above. But the best thing you can do is get them at a young age into music. It develops the cognitive part of their brain. Get them into music. Teach them how to play an instrument. Teach them how to play a violin, a piano, how to use the saxophone. Teach them, get them integrated with music. It helps them develop the left brain that is more creative, imaginative, gentle, kind. And if they can keep that passion for music, and once they get to the age 18, if they're able to take up dancing, what you find is that suddenly they have all of these items I'm referring to are skill sets. They're just simply skills. I'm reminded by a quote by Eric Hoffer, in which he said, in times of change, the learners will inherit the earth, but the learned would find themselves beautifully equipped with the world that no longer exists. Learning to dance is you keeping your mind open to continuous growth, improvement, and learning. And don't choose one specific dance style or music. Mix it up. I found dancing Cuban salsa, there was a different music, there was a different beat, there was a different count. When I moved to Kizomba, different music, different beat, different count. The style of dancing was different. The facial expressions were different. You go to merengue or you go to bachata, different beat, different music, different sound. So familiarize yourself with as much as you can along that spectrum. Now let me move quickly and talk about a few others. Men, you need to learn how to swim. You need to learn how to swim. You need to learn how to swim. And if swimming is of no interest to you, learn how to swim as a gift to your children. There is nothing more pitiful than parents who cannot swim, but who want their kids to learn how to swim. Or parents who cannot swim and who do not allow their kids to learn how to swim. Swimming is an essential life skill. I wish I can go into more detail on swimming. There's the health benefits, there's the psychological benefits, there's the therapeutic benefit. Being in water, just breathing in and breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, locking the world out. And the benefits of swimming are immeasurable. Mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, but more importantly, it's a life skill. The last thing you want is to be on a boat and you're dependent on life jackets. Here's something embarrassing. I learned how to swim very late, and today I'm not an excellent swimmer. But one of the goals I had was to learn how to swim. And I keep kicking myself as to why I didn't learn how to swim very early. You need to learn how to swim. Start young, because I learned how to swim when I was an adult. That made it very hard. Very hard. As a matter of fact, you should see me in water. I sink. I sink. Others float and I sink. I'm not a great swimmer, but over the years I've learned how to swim. I'm an average swimmer. But if I had started at 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, I would be today an exceptional swimmer. So I would recommend start early, start young, but you have to learn how to swim. Number 8 and number 9, you need to learn how to lead. You need to learn how to lead. But keep at the back of your mind that he who leads and has no one following is going on a walk. A leader is someone chosen by followers. You don't become a leader and demand that people follow you. You're chosen as the leader. And the best way to lead is to serve. The greatest commandment, or one of the greatest commandments, was this: if you want to be the greatest, then you must also become the servant. And leadership comes from serving other people. Servitude is a quality you have to learn. Start where you are. At home, if you have kids, start them very young. Make your bed, make your mother's bed. Clean up the living room, wash your father's car. At the end of meals, clean up the table, wash the plates. Be the servant of the house. Even though you may say that there are other people who are qualified to do that role more than you can, the idea is for you to be the servant wherever you find yourself. In the home, lead. At school, lead. Volunteer to be the one helping the teacher, staying back to help clean up the classroom. Be the one at work who says, I'll stay for an extra hour. I'll do the work. I'll help the company. I'll help my boss. At church, be the one who volunteers to join the choir, to join the ushers, to stay back and clean up the church, to help preach the gospel. In your community, be the one who reaches out to the widows, to the orphans. Be the one who reaches out to those who need help. Be the servant. If you want to be a good leader, Be the servant. Be the one who sows the seeds without an expectation of a return from the soil in which you sow. Number 9, you have to learn how to be humble. And the best way that I can say of being humble is get a piece of paper every morning, write down your gratitude list. 10 things you're grateful for. Every morning, make your gratitude list. What are you grateful for? Just make a list. Humility is a powerful, powerful aura to have. And it comes by remembering that every day it's a gift. Life has gifted you with something you have not earned. And if you can count your blessings, there's a song that says, count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God has done. Count your blessings, count your blessings, and you will be surprised what the Lord has done. So every day, count your blessings. That instills humility into your life. And as part of the growth process, always separate qualities that you have that are incidental to who you are. If you're very attractive, that is incidental. You have nothing to do with that. If you're tall, that is incidental, nothing to do with you. If your skin color, incidental, nothing to do with you. Do not associate pride with things that are incidental to who you are. You should have some humility for things that were gifted to you. But for things that you've worked for, things that you've strived for, things that you've labored for, things that you've sacrificed for, things you've acquired by the exchange of your time, your sweat, your tears, those items are items or areas where you must apply additional humility. Because those are the areas that logically you could argue that you worked hard and you deserve. But those are the areas where you have to be humble. You have to be grateful. You have to be humble. If you can learn how to be humble, and if you can stay humble, if you can stay meek, what you would find is you attract more people into your lives. You attract grace. You attract good luck. You attract favor. And that only comes into your life through humility, learning how to be humble. So I don't know how to explain how this works and how you can go about acquiring humility. I think the gratitude approach for me was the best way to start. Recognizing that everything you have is a gift. The air you breathe is a gift. The wealth you have is a gift. Your life is a gift. Your life could go just like that. And therefore, everything you own is a gift. And if you can wake up every morning and you can make a list of things you're grateful for, by writing it down, you bring it to life. You simply say, well, the universe has blessed me. Number 11, I think, is you have to learn how to earn. Wealth is something that you must acquire. Now, I didn't say you should. I said you must. Because the role of a man is provision. And there are no free lunches. You have to learn how to provide by learning how to earn. How to earn wealth, how to multiply wealth, how to keep your wealth. Some earn, but they can't keep. Some earn and multiply, but they can't keep. You need to learn how to earn, multiply, and keep. And I would say in the short time I have, recognize that there are two ways of earning money. By having money work for you and by you working for money. The latter refers to your human capital. You exercise and you exchange your time, your skill sets, your knowledge, your gifts in exchange for money. You take the money you've earned and you put that money to work, and that money then earns for you. In other words, you learn how to keep and protect the goose that lays the golden eggs. You take a portion of what you've earned and you put that to work by creating independent sources of wealth, sources of income. Ordinary income comes from your job. Investment income comes from putting the money you earned to work. So you need to learn how to earn. And finally, you need to learn how to pray. You need to learn how to pray. I don't know what your faith is. I'm not suggesting that you have one. But let me share a story with you. One of the many occasions when I was participating in an international competition, my England squad member was a Muslim, a good friend. I, a Christian. And we shared a room together. And it was beautiful. In the morning, I would go on my knees and pray. And he would go to the corner of the room, kneel down, and pray. Men who know how to pray know how to lead a family. Because what that means, and the reason you're learning how to pray is not because you want to speak in tongues. It's because it's an acknowledgement that there is something higher than yourself. It is an acknowledgement that you need help. You put your ego aside. And by prayer, I'm not saying chanting words. However you choose to do your prayer is entirely up to you. It could be meditation. It could be praise and worship. It could be words of affirmation. It could be prayer to a deity. It could simply be silence. You get to choose. But remember this. At some point, you will be the leader of the family. And one of your roles is to profess. And to profess, you need to learn how to speak. You need to learn how to pray. Now, all of the things that I've shared today are, in many ways, they form the responsibilities of a man. Protection, provision, promotion, prayer, and professing his love. So, protection was all the things I mentioned about learning how to fight. Provision was learning how to create wealth. Communication is learning how to profess. Prayer is learning how to bring the family unit together. Promotion is dancing. 12 things that every man needs to learn. I hope it's been useful.